Hello everyone, welcome back to some more Let's Read Dragon Age Origins lore. We just finished the Warden's Keep, and I think I have enough lore to read quite a bit. Let's go ahead and get started with the notes. And I really should probably be reading the notes. And I should be reading the notes during the game itself, because while they're not quest related, these may be helpful to the area I'm adventuring at the time. Well, it's too late now. Let's go ahead and read these notes. A letter to someone in High Ever. Oh, we got this from Poppy while we were at the Lake Conha docks. Dear Heather, how are you? How are father and mother? I don't know why I asked this. It was made clear so many years ago that I am no child of theirs. You are my only family now, and I thank the Maker that you had love and courage enough to keep calling me sister. I am happy for you and overjoyed to hear of your upcoming nuptials? Count your blessings. I believe you have snagged yourself a fine lad. So young and already the owner of his own freehold. Soon you will start a family of your own. Oh, Heather, I do envy you. But perhaps I shall envy you for not much longer. We have hoped and prayed for something, anything, and now I see the prison bars begin to bend and sag. With so much injustice has been done to my kind, they cannot have dreamed that the Maker would allow it to continue. There was a change coming to the tower. I can feel it, and it both excites and terrifies me. I don't know when I shall write again, dear sister, but do not worry. If all goes well, perhaps no letters will be necessary, and you shall find me on your very doorstep. With much love, Gwynolyn. Oh, wow. Well, she was one of the Blood Mages. She's dead now. A note from the Honolith Village Council. Mistress Matilda. The council has unanimously agreed to put you in charge of the decorations for Honolith's upcoming Harvest Festival. We have adored all that you did with the village for the winter solstice. As such, the statue must be adorned with items that capture the essence of the season. Iris kindly offered the use of her wide-brimmed straw hat with the berries and daisies that would love to see it on the statue. Farmer Goodman will also donate some of his baby pumpkins. We think a garland of small pumpkins and ribbons draped about the statue's soldiers would be lovely. Whatever you decide, it will be splendid, I'm sure, and we are all looking forward to it. Councilman Murray. Oh, poor Shale. Graffiti in Redcliffe's Tavern. Don't eat the cheese. Scratch into the bar of Redcliffe's Tavern. A decades-old letter. Madam, I can assure you that the Circle of Magi is not a sacrilegious institution, and that, indeed, we operate under the supervision of the Chantry. It would make our investigation of your husband's death much easier if you would simply cooperate with us. I am disappointed to hear that you sold the Golem's activation rod. I understand both it and your husband were of invaluable aid to King Marek during the war against Orlais. Without the rod, we cannot discern whether Wilhelm's Golem was responsible for his murder. The Golem will simply have to remain where it is unless the villagers can find a means to destroy it. Our condolences to you and your son for your loss. I imagine it is of little consolation to you, but your husband is much admired here and will be missed. Maker keep you. First Enchanter Arlen. Oh, wow, yeah, so some time ago, since Irving is now the First Enchanter. Avernus's notes. The taint allows us to sense the Darkspawn. The longer we survive with the taint in our blood, the more potent it becomes. Unfortunately, this corruption will eventually overwhelm the Warden. Over time, it devours both mind and body, leaving nothing. But what if the spread of the corruption could be stopped or contained in some way? What if the Warden could become more powerful without having the power kill him? How great would that power be? Would it be enough to stop the demons? The joining ritual is crude. We take into ourselves the blood of the Darkspawn in the most obvious way. Most die from the corruption immediately. It is, after all, poison. There must be some way to refine the joining, isolate the true power that is found in the Darkspawn blood, and leave behind the evil that kills us. I can feel the corruption starting to take its toll on my body. I must not succumb. There is too much work to be done. Through my magic, I've been able to slow its inevitable spread, but not stop it completely. I am starting to hear things, even while awake, a voice, more beautiful than any other, that calls to me from the depths. In my dreams, I see the Black City, and I am drawn towards it. There is something there, an answer to what this taint is. This taint that we share with the Darkspawn. From the notes of Avernus. And a plea from Commander Athlar. Soldier's Peak is more than we bargained for. There is sinister magic work at here. The men are seeing things and cannot tell nightmares from reality. The fallen return to life to attack again and again, and we are assaulted by dark creatures, the likes of which I have never seen. Whoever is responsible is intent on destroying us all, the King's army and the Grey Wardens both. Send help! We cannot last much longer. Commander Athlar, but his note didn't reach anybody. We have some more information on our characters. Let's see. Alistar. Alistar is fascinated by magic, even as his life is defined by fighting its darker manifestations. He has a fondness for strange runestones and figural studies of arcane creatures. Oh, nice! Hey, we know what gifts he likes now. Liliana. Liliana takes care to honor the Lotaeri cloister that took her in, and keeps symbols of Andraste's blessings close to her heart. Morgan. Morgan's critical eye is not reserved solely for others. Knowing or not, she has a simple fondness for jewelry, and is very particular about her appearance. Shale. What can I say? I have a heart of stone. The golems of Orzammar once made up the vanguard of the Dwarven army, holding back the tides of darkspawn that flooded out of the deep roads, but the art of making them was lost, and many of them succumbed to wear and damage in battle. Shale has no memories either of the time spent fighting in the deep roads, or of the coming to Honlith, only a few spotty and bitter recollections of its last master. Galvin unearthed Shale's control rod and awakened it, adding a bitter, malfunctioning golem to the... Oh, I can never pronounce this word. Meangere? Of companions. The group of companions. I can never pronounce that. Meangere? Win. For Win, the printed word is a window to true understanding. A scholar by heart, she feels that what a people commit to the page is sacred by definition. Zevran Aranae. I can't pronounce his name. I think I read most of this already, but I can't remember, so we'll read it again. The crows send their regards. Between the Tevinter Imperium, Rivian, and the Free Marches sits the nation of Antiva. Although it possesses few resources of its own, Antiva's location makes it a center for trade in the north, and the capital, Antiva City, is the wealthiest in the world. Antiva has virtually no army. The monarchy is too weak to support one. Most Antivans would be hard-pressed to even name the current king, as the true power lies in the hands of a dozen merchant princes, each with a personal army, and each locked in a constant struggle for power against all the others. Anyone would think, then, that Antiva would be a ripe target for invasion by one of her neighbors, but even the Quinari leave Antiva alone for one very good reason: the House of Crows. The most efficient, most feared, and most expensive guild of assassins the world calls Antiva their home, and their reputation alone defends the borders. Zevran was a crow contacted by Loghain to assassinate Alistar and Galvin. One failed attempt later, however, he found himself at the mercy of his would-be victims. He was killed, which likely has ruined the crow's otherwise perfect record of successes. Sophia Dryden. We read a lot about this, so we're going to read only the last part, which I think was the only thing we have left. Addendum. King Arland had driven the Grey Wardens from Ferelden, and after the siege of Soldier's Peak, the base was abandoned. When Soldier's Peak was finally entered again for the first time in centuries, it was discovered that Sophia Dryden had been possessed by a demon, and we killed her there. Culture and history. Oh wow, we have 4 to read here. The history of Soldier's Peak. Let's go ahead and get this read. The Grey Warden base at Soldier's Peak was built in the middle of the Glory Age, several decades after the Second Blight was ended. Before then, Grey Wardens in Ferelden would take up residence in castles and forts that belonged to generous nobles. Warden Commander Gaspar Asturian desired a fortified headquarters where his forces could train and live. He planned that Soldier's Peak would be a city unto itself. The defeat of the Darkspawn and the Archdemon Zazikiel was fresh in the minds of the Ferelden people, and many were willing to donate gold to build Commander Asturian's fortress. Soldier's Peak was fully completed within 10 years, and dedicated to the Maker in 934 glory. From the History of the Grey Wardens in Ferelden, by Brother Genevinti, Chantry Scholar. In Chapter 2, As he approached his 60th year, rumors swirled that the corruption in Warden Commander Asturian's blood was beginning to take its toll. According to reports from that time, the commanders experienced terrifying waking dreams and heard his name whispered from the dark corners of Soldier's Peak. It is said that Asturian would spend hours locked up alone in the great hall of the base, muttering to himself, though no one was ever able to make out what he was saying. Many also believed that Asturian began in secret to draw plans to expand his fortress, adding to it hidden passages and alcoves, all to protect himself from the shadows that pursued him. No one knows whether Asturian was able to complete his project, for his deterioration had become obvious to anyone who spent any amount of time with him. He was quickly replaced by Warden Commander Frida Halwick. Asturian was taken to Orzammar, where he submitted to the calling, the last rite of the Grey Wardens, and went to his death with honor. From the History of the Grey Wardens in Ferelden, by Brother Ginavinti, Chantry Scholar. And Chapter 3? After Asturian's death, the rumors and theories became increasingly outlandish. One of the more ridiculous rumors told of Asturian's infatuation with an elven princess Allure, whom he was trying to resurrect in a secret ritual chamber through the use of blood magic and the prince's favorite food, raspberry jam. Princess's favorite food, raspberry jam. Warden Commander Frida Halwick launched a thorough investigation into Asturian's secret plans, but was unable to uncover any evidence that anything in Soldier's Peak had been changed. Commander Halwick declared that the rumors about Asturian were a slight on his memory, and that anyone found repeating them would be harshly punished. The stories were thus silenced. And Chapter 4? There was one mystery, however, that persisted, and this mystery perplexed even Commander Halwick herself. When Commander Asturian went to the calling in the Deep Roads, he did not have in hand his sword, Asturian's Might, forged for him by Dwarven Smith and presented to him upon the completion of Soldier's Peak. Nor did he pass the sword on to his successor, or any other Grey Warden. While some maintained that Asturian had simply destroyed the sword in his dotage, others believed he stashed it away somewhere in Soldier's Peak. One young warden claimed that Asturian had once grabbed him by the shoulders, fixed him with an unwavering gaze and said, "The sword will remind you what it is to be a warden. Speak your oath to me when the shadows come. You must speak the words." What this was supposed to mean was never made clear. From the History of the Grey Wardens in Ferelden, by Brother Ginavinti, Chantry Scholar. We have a new creature up here somewhere. An ash wraith. Legend has it, when Andraste's ashes were taken into hiding, some of her closest disciples gave themselves to the fire, that their restless souls might remain to guard her final resting place forever. Whether they are the spirits of Andraste's disciples or merely fade spirits, the temple that houses the sacred urn is filled with wraiths. Oh, is it? Created from a burnt corpse, the ash wraith is a powerful and amorphous opponent, able to lash and smother while being immune to most physical attacks. Even if successfully dispersed, it can reform at a later time. Magic is the only real way to fight such a creature, wind and ice attacks being the most useful. They are capable of creating small whirlwinds that are devastating to anyone unfortunate enough to get close, and their touch leaves a person drained. And we have a Book and Songs entry, 2 of them in here. Let's read Sophia Dryden's journal. 21 Illuvista. Illuvista? We'll say 21 Illuvista. It is done. The nobles have thrown their lot in with Arland. Arland, the snot-nosed man-child. Arland, who did not walk till he was in his 5th year. Arland, who had to be pried off his nursemaid's breast not 2 years ago, or so it was whispered. The Tyrns and Arls believe him to be a simpleton, and easily led, but I have seen something in the boy's eye, and it terrifies me. 10 Moloris. I watched the summer day processions from a room high in Fort Drakon. The regent has for me treason, with my only guilt is of being true to my country and my heart. My guard's tongue was easily loosened with a gift of a ruby ring, and I am told that the bonds are fighting against my sentence. I shall pray, but not hope that will be anything but the gallows for me. 2 Feverintus. The draught was like bitter fire, but I survived. Weep for me, for I survived. Would that they had made a clean end for me. I should have died a lady, the greatest of the Dryadens, not lived to become this nothing, this monstrous nothing. 19 Matrilineus. Enough. I shall waste no more time with the wretched womanish lamentation. Death would have been easy, but fate saw fit to spare me, and I will seize upon this chance. The Grey Wardens are an army, and the old commander is weak, a wisp of a man. I will inspire the Wardens, and Arlen will rue the day he spared my life. Select entries from the journals of Warden Commander Sophia Dryden and the Journal of Enchanter Wilhelm. 19 Plutanus. The interrogation of the demon is going well, and is rather fascinating, provided that what it is saying is true. I have sent all my research so far to First Enchanter Arden, and while he is concerned about my safety, he does not think there was a reason to stop just yet. All I hope is that the Templars do not discover what I am doing. How will we ever find another way to deal with demonic possession if the Chantry does not let us research it? 20 Iluvesta. Young Matthias nearly wandered down here again today, and this time I forgot to leave the barrier up. I believe I will key the defenses to ignore anyone of my blood. I would rather have the boy stumbled into the laboratory than have him killed by my forgetfulness. Poor lad. All he wants is to know why his father spent so much time beneath the tower. I will spend more time with him soon, I swear it. 28 Iluvesta. The demon almost managed to get away again. Tricky. I shall have to be more careful. Young Eamon sent a letter to me to return to Redcliffe. I shall have to consider it soon. 11. Oh, hold on. I skipped a whole bit of it. 28 Iluvesta. Shale is acting strangely. I wonder if I should discontinue my experiments upon it? I am so near to a breakthrough. I am certain. Perhaps it is best if I focus on the demon. 11 Martrillanius. How could it be? What an intriguing discovery, especially considering that the demon was attempting to keep me from it at all costs. Or did it lead me to that information by seeming to deny it from me? I must discover the truth. 19 Umbralia. I think it is time to dismiss this demon. It is too dangerous for me to continue holding it, and I cannot discount the possibility that it is having some influence over the golem. Or is it my experiments? I will try to deactivate Shale for the time being, and then deal with the demon once and for all. Let it end here. There are no further entries. That's it, everyone. Thank you for listening. When we come back, we'll have more lore to read. Until then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to some more Let's Read Dragon Age's lore. We just got a ton of it here in the Elf Camp, and it's time for us to read it. I might actually upload this before we do the Elven Forest, as we'll have some background information as to what the elves believe in and what we might encounter out there. We have a ton of information to read anyway, so let's get started. So we have some notes. Correspondus interruptus. Oh, these were the love letters. So let's see, where were we? My Elfroot. The herbalist suggested powdered brontohorn. I was very discreet. Your sunflower. Let's see, what else was there? These aren't in any particular order. We're going to skip reading them then, just because it'll take forever for me to find out which ones we've read, which ones we haven't. So let's see. Okay, so here we go. So, wow, we have a lot to read inside Magic and Religion. Let's get started. Andruel, goddess of the hunt. Hear me, sons and daughters of the people. I am sister of the moon, mother of hares, lady of the hunt, Andruel. Remember my teachings. Remember the Vir Tanadal, the way of the 3 trees that I have given you. Ver Asan, the way of the arrow. Be swift and silent. Strike true. Do not waver. And let not your prey suffer. That is my way. Ver Borasan, the way of the bow. As the sapling bends, so must you. In yielding find resilience. In pliancy find strength. That is my way. Vir Adalen, the way of the wood. Receive the gifts of the hunt with mindfulness. Respect the sacrifice of my children. Know that your passing shall nourish them in turn. That is my way. Remember the ways of the hunter, and I shall be with you. From the charge of Andruel, goddess of the hunt. Dirthamen, keeper of secrets. The twins Falandin and Dirthamen are the eldest children of the Elgarnon, the Allfather, and Mithal, the Protector. The brothers were inseparable from the moment of their conception, known for their great love for each other. That is why we often speak of Falandin in one breath and Dirthamen the next, for they cannot bear to be apart, not even in our tales. When the world was young, the gods often walked the earth, and Falandin and Dirthamen were no exception. Both were delighted by the many wonders of our earth. They played with the animals, whispered to the trees, and bathed in the lakes and streams. Their days were filled with bliss, and they did not know sorrow. And then one day, while passing through the forest, Falandin and Dirthamen came across an old and sickly deer resting beneath a tree. "Why do you sit so still, little sister?" asked Falandin. "Play with us," said Dirthamen. "Alas," spoke the deer, "I cannot. I am old, and although I wish to go to my rest, my legs can no longer carry me." Taking pity on the deer, Falandin gathered her up into his arms and carried her to her rest beyond the vale. Dirthamen tried to follow them, but the shifting great paths beyond the vale would not let him. Separated for the first time from Falandin, Dirthamen wandered aimlessly till he came across two ravens. "You are lost, and soon you will fade," the raven named Fear said to Dirthamen. "Your brother has abandoned you. He no longer loves you," said the other, named Deceit. "I am not lost, and Falandin has not abandoned me," replied Dirthamen. He subdued the ravens and bade them carry him to Falandin. This they did, for they had been defeated, and were now bound to Dirthamen's service. When Dirthamen found Falandin, he found also the deer, who once again was light on her feet, for her spirit was released from her weakened body. Both Falandin and Dirthamen rejoiced to see this. Falandin vowed that he would remain to carry all the dead to their place beyond, just as he did the deer, and Dirthamen stayed with them, for the twins cannot bear to be apart. From the story of Falandin and Dirthamen, as told by Gasharl, keeper of the Ralaferin clan of the Dalish elves. Elgarnon, god of vengeance. Long ago, when time itself was young, and the only things in existence were the sun and the land, the sun, curious about the land, bowed his head close to her body, and Elgarnon was born in the place where they touched. The sun and the land loved Elgarnon greatly, for he was beautiful and clever. As a gift to Elgarnon, the land brought forth great birds and beasts of sky and forest, and all manner of wonderful green things. Elgarnon loved his mother's gifts, and praised them highly, and walked amongst them often. The sun, looking down upon the fruitful land, saw the joy that Elgarnon took in her works, and grew jealous. Out of spite, he shone his face full upon all the creatures the earth had created, and burned them all to ashes. The land cracked and split from bitterness and pain, and cried salt tears for the loss of all she had wrought. The pool of tears cried for the land became the ocean, and the cracks in her body were the first rivers and streams. Elgarnon was furious at what his father had done, and vowed vengeance. He lifted himself into the sky and wrestled the sun, determined to defeat him. They fought for an eternity, and eventually the sun grew weak, while Elgarnon's rage was unabated. Eventually, Elgarnon threw the sun down from the sky, and buried him in an abyss created by the land's sorrow. With the sun gone, the world was covered in shadow, and all that remained in the sky were the reminders of Elgarnon's battle with his father, drops of the sun's lifeblood which twinkled and shimmered in the darkness. From the tale of Elgarnon and the Sun, as told by Gasharl, keeper of the Ralaferin clan of Dalish elves. Ralaferin. Oh my god, this name. Gillanane. Gillanane, mother of the Hala. They say Gillanane was one of the people in the days before Alarthon, and the chosen of Andruil the huntress. She was very beautiful, with hair of snowy white, and was grateful as a gazelle. She kept always to Andruil's ways, and Andruil favored her above all others. One day, while hunting in the forest, Gillanane came across a hunter she did not know. At his feet lay a hawk, shot through the heart by an arrow. Gillanane was filled with rage, for the hawk, along with the hare, is an animal much beloved of Andruil. Gillanane demanded that the hunter make an offering to Andruil in exchange for taking the life of one of her creatures. The hunter refused, and Gillanane called upon the goddess to curse him, so that he could never again hunt and kill a living creature. Galinane's curse took hold, and the hunter found that he was unable to hunt. His prey would dart out of sight, and his arrows would fly astray. His friends and family began to mock him for his impotence. For what use is a hunter who cannot hunt? Ashamed, the hunter swore he would find Gilanane and repay her for what she had done to him. He found Gilanane while she was out on a hunt with her sisters, and lured her away from them with lies and false words. He told Gilanane that he had learned his lesson and begged her to come with him so she could teach him to make a proper offering to Andrul. Moved by his plea, Gilanane followed the hunter, and when they were away from all of her sisters, the hunter turned on her. He blinded her first, and then bound her as one would bind a fresh kill from the hunt. But because he was cursed, the hunter could not kill her. Instead, he left her for dead in the forest. And Gilanane prayed to the gods for help. She prayed to Ungarnen for vengeance, to Mother Mithil to protect her, but above all, she prayed to Andrul. Andrul sent her hairs to Gilanane, and they chewed through the ropes that bound her. But Gilanane was still wounded and blind, and could not find her way home. So Andrul turned her into a beautiful white deer, the first Hala, and Gilanane found her way back to her sisters and led them to the hunter, who was brought to justice. Since that day, the Hala have guided the people, and have never led us astray, for they listened to the voice of Gilanane. From the tale of Gilanane, as told by Gisharol, keeper of the Ralafiren clan of the Dalish Elves. Seles, the Hearthkeeper. Siles, the Hearthkeeper. Siles the Hearthkeeper is seen as the sister of Andrul the Huntress. While Andrul loved to run with the creatures of the wild, Siles preferred to stay by her home tree, occupying herself with gentle arts and song. It is Siles who gave us fire and taught us how to use it. It is Siles who showed us how to deal with the herbs and with magic, and how to ease the passage of infants into this world. And again, it is Siles who showed us how to spin the fibers of plants into thread and rope. We owe much to Siles, and that is why we sing to her when we kindle the fires, and when we put them out. That is why we sprinkle the aravals with Siles' fragrant tree moss, and ask that she protect them and all within. As told by Gisharol, keeper of the Ralafiren clan of Dalish Elves. June, god of the craft. We dedicate all our crafts to June, for it is he who taught the people to bend the branches of trees to make our bows, and to fashion coverings of furs and ironbark. Without June, we would have the Aravel, or the harnesses for our hala? When the people were young, we wandered the forest without purpose. We drank from streams and ate the berries and nuts that we could find. We did not hunt, for we had no bows. We wore nothing, for we had no knowledge of spinning or needlecraft. We shivered in the cold nights, and we went hungry through the winters when all the world was covered in ice and snow. Then Siles the Hearthkeeper came, and gave us fire, and taught us how to feed it with wood. June taught us to fashion bows and arrows and knives so that we could hunt. We learned to cook the flesh of the creatures we hunted over Sileus's fire, and we learned to clothe ourselves in the furs and skins, and the people were no longer cold and hungry. As told by Gisharol, keeper of the Ralafiren clan of the Dalish Elves, and the last one, Fenharel the Dreadwolf. There is precious little we know about Fenharel, for they said he did not care for our people. Elgarnon and Mithal. Elgarnon and Mithal created the world as we know it, and Drul taught us the ways of the hunter. Siles and June gave us fire and crafting, but Fenharel kept to himself and plotted the betrayal of all the gods. And after the destruction of Arlathan, when the gods could no longer hear our prayers, it is said that Fenharel spent centuries in the far corner of the earth, giggling madly and hugging himself in glee. The legends say that before the fall of Arlathan, the gods we know and revere fought an endless war with the others of their kind. There is not a Havren among us who remembers these others. Only in dreams do we hear whispered the names of the Gelderon, and Darnthal, and Anaris, for they are the Forgotten Ones, the gods of terror and malice, spite and pestilence. In ancient times, only Fenharel could walk without fear among both our gods and the Forgotten Ones, for although he is kin to the gods of the people, and the Forgotten Ones knew of his cunning ways, and saw him as one of their own. And that is how Fenharel tricked them. Our gods saw him as brother, and they trusted him when he said that they must keep to the heavens while he arranged the truths. And the Forgotten Ones trusted him also, when he said he would arrange for the defeat of our gods, if only the Forgotten Ones would return to the Abyss for a time. They trusted Fenharel, and they were all of them betrayed, and Fenharel sealed them away, so they could never again walk among the people. From the tale of Fenharel's triumph, as told by Gisharo, keeper of the Ralafaran clan of the Dalish Elves. I don't know about Mythal yet. Alright, let's look at culture and history. Aravels. The Dalish, who band together in small groups of blood relatives, travel in ornately carved wagons known as an Aravel, drawn by large white stags called Hala. The Aravel is a unique sight, beautiful in their swooping curvature, and adorned with broad hoods and bright silken cloths that flap in the wind, often displaying the noble banners that once flew over that family's house. Most humans refer to the Aravel as landships, for in a strong wind they can often appear as if the elves travel in longboats with sails high overhead to announce their arrival or warn others away. The Hala are unique to the elves, and any but elven handlers consider them ornery and almost impossible to train. To the Dalish, they are noble beasts, superior in breeding to the horse. Certainly most humans would agree that the Hala are as beautiful as the elves themselves. The fact that the imperial nobles maintain a bounty on Hala horns that often find their way into Tevinter is an affront to the Dalish consider unforgivable. Few among us can claim to have seen the Dalish landships up close. Any human who sees them on the horizon does well to head the other way. Few Dalish clans take kindly to humans intruding on their camps, and more than one tale tells of trouble-making humans who found themselves mercilessly filled with Dalish arrows. From In Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar, by Brother Ginavinti. The Dales. Many forgot that when the holy Andraste called out to the oppressed peoples to rise up, it was the elves who answered her first. The humblest slaves of the Imperium became her vanguard, and when victory came, they were rewarded accordingly. They were given a land in what is now the south of Orlais called the Dales. A great exodus of elves undertook the journey to their new home, crossing ocean, desert, and mountain. Their city, the first elven city since the fabled Arlathan, was called Halamsharal. A new era had begun for the elves. Halamsharal. But the old era wasn't through with them. In their forest city, the elves turned again to worship their silent ancient gods. They became increasingly isolationist, posting emerald knights who guarded their borders with jealousy, rebuking all efforts at trade or civilized discourse. Dark rumors spread in the lands that bordered the Dales, whispers of humans captured and sacrificed to elven gods. And then came an attack by the elves on the defenseless village of Red Crossing. The Chantry replied with the exalted march of the Dales, and the era of the elven kingdom came to an end. Halamsharal was utterly destroyed, and the elves driven out, scattered, left to survive on goodwill alone. From Ferelden, Folklore and History, by Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. The Long Walk. When our people left Tevinter, we had nothing except the knowledge that for the first time in countless centuries we were free. It was Shartan's dream that one day we would have our own homeland, where we could live as we chose. After the long struggle that claimed the lives of many, even Shartan himself, we were granted the Dales. And though the Dales were to the south of the land of Orlais, and a long way off from the Tevinter, it mattered little. We were going home. And so we walked. We called our journey the Long Walk, for that was what it was. We walked with what little we had on our backs. Some walked without shoes, for they had none. Whole families, women with infants, the old and young alike, all of them made their way across the land on foot, and if one of our people could no longer walk, we carried him, or sometimes left him behind. Many perished along the way. Some died of exhaustion, others simply gave up and fell by the wayside. A great number were set upon by human bandits, and even though we had few possessions. Along the way, a growing number began to bemoan the decision to leave Tevinter. At least in Tevinter, they said, we had food and water and shelter. What do we have here? Nothing but open sky, and the prospect of the never-ending road ahead. Some turned back toward Tevinter, but most of us continued walking. And the gods rewarded those of us who did not waver by bringing us to the Dales. Our people called the new city Halam-Sharal, the end of the journey, and for a time it was home. As told by Gasharo, keeper of the Lotaeri clan of the Dalish Elves. Arlathan, Part 1. Before the ages were named or numbered, our people were glorious and eternal, and never changing. Like the great oak tree, they were constant in their traditions, strong in their roots, and ever reaching for the sky. They felt no need to rush when life was endless. They worshipped their gods for months at a time. Decisions came after decades of debate, and an introduction could last for years. From time to time, our ancestors would drift into centuries-long slumber, but this was not death, for we know they wandered the fade in dreams. In those ages, our people called all the land Elvhanan, which in the old language means place of our people. And at the center of the world stood the great city of Arlathan, the place of knowledge and debate, where the best of the ancient elves would go to trade knowledge, greet old friends, and settle disputes that had gone on for millennia. But while our ancestors were caught up in the forever cycle of ages, drifting through life at that which we today would consider an intolerable pace, the world outside the lush forests and ancient trees was changing. The humans first arrived from Parvolan to the north, called Shemlin or Quicklings by the ancients. The humans were pitiful creatures whose lives blinked by in an instant. When they first met the elves, the humans were brash and warlike, quick to anger and quicker to fight, with no patience for the unharried pace of the elven diplomacy. But the humans brought worse things than war with them. Our ancestors proved susceptible to human diseases, and for the first time in history, elves died of natural causes. What's more, those elves who spent time bartering and negotiating with humans found themselves aging, tainted by the humans' brash and impatient lives. Many believed that the ancient gods had judged them unworthy for their long lives and cast them down among the quicklings. Our ancestors came to look upon the humans as parasites, which I understand is similar to the way humans see our people in the cities. The ancient elves immediately moved to close off Elvhanan from the humans, for fear that this quickening effect would crumble the civilization. From the fall of Arlathan, as told by Gasharo, keeper of the Lotaeri clans of the Dalish Elves. We have some new creatures here. We have a new creature here, the Hala. No creature is more revered by the Dalish than the Hala, and no other animal has a god of its own. These white stags are much larger than ordinary deer, and the Dalish Hala keepers carve their antlers as they grow, making them curve into intricate designs. In ancient times, these stags bore elven knights into combat, but since the fall of the Dales, they are used less as mounts and more to pull the Aravels. And characters, who do we have here? Anything new? We have Keeper Zathrian. Even with all our magic and skill, we only delay the inevitable. It is said that the elves lived in Ferelden long before any others set foot there, and though most of their knowledge has been lost, it falls to the keeper of each clan to preserve what they have. Zathrin is an old, severe elf with little love for outsiders, but his clan is facing a more trying enemy than most. Witherfang. Witherfang is, according to the keeper Zathrian, a wolf. He is no ordinary wolf, however. He is a wolf possessed by a powerful spirit and the source of the werewolf curse that plagues the Basilian forest. While Witherfang is hundreds of years old and very powerful in his own right, the only way to end his curse is to cut his heart and bring it to Zathrian. cut out his heart and bring it to Zathrian. Alright, everyone, wow, I kind of murdered quite a bit there, but that was the lore. Thank you for listening. When we come back, well, we will read more of it. I will see you guys then.